Love. Some would say it took a backseat when the pandemic forced us apart. As a family-run and proudly Canadian-owned company, Charm Diamond Centers saw the need to bring us together with tales of love and created the Canadian Love Map podcast. Since then, we've shared hundreds of real, uplifting stories that prove love conquers all. So thank you for listening. We couldn't do it without you. And remember, love starts here. What the world needs now is love. More love.
Stars literally aligned.
He's always been the one.
There's someone out there for everyone.
I'm Nancy Regan, your host on the Canadian Love Map. We are on a journey to uncover and share love stories of all kinds.
He's never forgotten to bring me flowers.
We're hoping we're going to give a little good news to this world.
Even in these dark times, the life continues to go on.
It's all about compassion, devotion, adventure, and of course, love.
Everybody needs somebody. Everybody needs love.
This is the Canadian Love Map.
Well, love is the most important thing.
Whenever I get anxious or upset or anything, he makes me laugh. We have these silly things we've done our whole lives. It's these things that keep us close together and keep us bonded in that way.
People have said, I got to call my friend, especially through the pandemic.
Yeah.
They lost touch with someone. Your chosen family is just as important as your given one.
Today's love story belongs to Catherine and Craig, two old friends whose 25-year journey has included peaks and valleys. The greatest obstacle they've faced together, Catherine's brain cancer. But that life-threatening crisis didn't stop them from auditioning for the Amazing Race Canada. Proving the old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, they not only competed in this nationally televised reality show, they won it. This is the Canadian Love Map. Welcome, Catherine and Craig. So great to have you here. I want to start by being very transparent and say that usually we make these podcast recordings about, 30 to 45 minutes, but I'm not sure how I'm going to contain you two within that time frame, because I think we could literally talk for 4 hours. What do you think?
Probably.
I think so, but coffee will turn into wine if we're going to do that, right? We have to have some wine in the picture.
That's fair enough. We're not averse to that. Thanks so much for saying yes to this.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
This is a thrill to be able to share our relationship on your platform.
Well, to have you describe it as a thrill is really an honor, because you guys know thrills. And, Canadians watched you and were thrilled by your team, your commitment, your motivation when you were on The Amazing Race. And I'm really excited to dig into that experience, but also your relationship and how life is now. So why don't we tease the listeners and not talk about The Amazing Race yet, but go back. Let's rewind and go back to the beginning of your relationship and talk about how your friendship started.
Well, it started at the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. He came there suddenly, and I had just done my first musical theater show at Rainbow Stage, and we just sort of found each other. I think you watched one of my classes or something?
We were in the school. And we were in different departments of the school. I was in the professional division. But you can imagine, in a building that is obsessed with ballet 24/7, two people that love singing, and we could hear each other practice and singing in these rehearsal rooms. It was easy to find each other, and especially with her beautiful, boisterous voice. So I tracked her down and I said, your name's Catherine. She said, yes, it is. And I said, Catherine, who loves musical theater? And she says, yes. And I said, come here. And we hugged and we embraced, and it was a kinship ever since.
Yeah.
Isn't that something? Well, let me ask you to tell me a little bit. It's going to sound like an audition for The Amazing Race, but tell me a little bit, each of you, about yourselves. I guess we'll go back even further for that. How did that passion develop, and what was your childhood like?
Well, I'll start. I sort of learned that I wanted to be on stage when I was like 3, when I figured out how to roll out of a handstand and stand up and be super proud. But I think that I've just danced my whole life and wanted to be entertain people my whole life. And in that entertaining, I got all my training from the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, and met Craig there too. But just I knew I wanted to do something that entertained people. Didn't know quite what it was. And my parents were always supportive of everything that I did. I woke up every morning, went to ballet class in the morning with Arnold Spohr, took a bus to school, then took a bus back to dancing, was there all night until 10. My parents would pick me up at 10. And every day I did the same thing and I loved it and I was so passionate about it. And I think that's what you need to have, passion for something. But as soon as I turned 18, I moved to Toronto and did an audition for Stratford Festival and got that. And then just from there, just one on top of the other things sort of led me to my career. I've always been supported by my parents. I've always been supported by my chosen family. I've always been supported by everybody that I've ever come in contact with. I just had to sort of push my way in. Of
When you say chosen family, I assume that Craig is part of that
course.
group.
Yes. Yes.
Craig, tell us your story.
I grew up in a very small farming community, Harrow, Ontario. In fact, I'm back here. I built a home, I split my time between Palm Springs and Southern Ontario. Small town, but really grateful and lucky that I had a support team here because I was different. I mean, I could do the splits literally coming out of the womb, right? Like,
Oh, that sounds, as a mother, that sounds really painful, actually.
I'm sure it is. We should have Lenore here to talk about that. But my parents really supported something unique and different about me. So did the town. I had teachers and friends. And although I'm not going to say I didn't have some hardships, because I certainly did, trying to self-discover the difference, which ultimately I think led to me identifying as a gay individual. But I still had a lot of support, a love and passion for singing, acting, and dancing. And I bet you some of my acting came from overcompensating to try and, win people over. And I was short as well and playing hockey and stuff. So I'm really grateful for that kind of challenge because it led to a lot of skill sets that eventually helped us even win the Amazing Race. But my career took me, yes, to the School of Royal Winnipeg Ballet, met Catherine, and then lots of Broadway shows, including the original pre-Broadway Mamma Mia, Chitty Chitty Bang
Wow.
Bang, Fiddler on the Roof. I'm so fortunate that the list goes on. And then this opportunity to connect with Catherine with Canada's most popular competition reality show.
Isn't it funny when you look back at your life and you can identify how everything led to the present moment? That's what it sounds like to me. And it may not be a classic or predictable, you know, experience both you have had to go to the Amazing Race platform, but as you know, in retrospect, you can see, yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, even our Amazing Race experience is very similar to life in the sense that obstacles and challenges and no's come in the picture all the time. But it's how you deal with that and the trust. And thankfully for our careers that have had ups and downs and was a roller coaster, to trust when it feels like there is an obstacle and a block, right? And know that it's the universe aligning what's ultimately going to be best for you. And that was really challenging on the race with what we were faced, but ultimately that was our mindset.
Yeah.
So it's that, what is this here to teach me?
Right. Well, it was hard because we were cast for the 2020 season, and then that was postponed till the end of the summer, then postponed to the next year, then postponed again. And we were like, well, we don't know if I'm going to even be alive when it happens. So that was one of our things we had to face. And we sort of put it to bed for a little bit. And then when they called us back, we were like, okay, let's get training for this again.
Yeah.
Okay, so Catherine, we've got to delve into that statement of yours. I don't even know if I'm going to be alive. What was it that happened in your life that really, in some ways, prepared you for this, but also meant that this might not have ever happened?
So in 2013, I was diagnosed with anaplastic astrocytoma, which is grade 3 astrocytoma, which is one less than what Gord Downey had. It will turn into glioblastoma. We just don't know when. So I have an MRI every 3 months. And when it's stable, which means it has not grown, I do jazz hands and make my oncologist do jazz hands. And so I kind of live my life 3 months at a time, which is
brain cancer.
It's brain cancer. Yeah, it's brain cancer.
Mhm.
And yeah, I forgot to say that.
Mhm.
It's brain cancer. And, I had a 2-year-old and a 5-week-old kids, and it was hard. And I had to relearn how to speak and to write and to sign anything. And, people are like, why don't you just, get a whiteboard? I'm like, I couldn't write. And it's so
Mm.
frustrating because I had complete aphasia, which is like, exactly what you want to say, but you can't say it. And even now I struggle with that. I have really no short-term memory, and I have a lot of issues that I have to overcome every day. But this was one of the things we wanted to do. We were doing Romeo and Juliet with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. And so we had so much fun because we never had danced together before. We had all these wonderful things in our careers, but we had never done the same show together. And they offered it to us. The Royal Winnipeg Ballet offered for us to play Lady and Lord Capulet, and we immediately did it. And it was so much fun. We were like, what can we do now?
Well, it's not just fun.
It was rewarding.
No, it was important for her brain to rewire it. I think a lot of people during the pandemic can relate to just being isolated and at home and not having a lot of external and social challenges, right? So it was shocking, like before, like to see Catherine. Yes, I want her to be comfortable, and she moved back home to Winnipeg to live a more simple life. But also at the same time, not having those challenges, Catherine wasn't probably being able to build her strength and stamina with this and to continue to fight it. So I didn't want her to get bored. And I felt like Romeo and Juliet was a great opportunity.
It's good.
And an incredible challenge. But the Royal Winnipeg recognized that it's unfair for her to do that solo. So they brought me in as a compassionate, loving friend, because we do have this really like close friendship where I'm able to help guide her and challenge her with that compassion. And it worked.
And the challenge, like when he challenges me, it's something that I want to do. It's not anything that I'm like, I don't want to do it. It's like, I bet you can do this. And I'm like, you know what? I can. So it's one of those, it's a healthy push.
Or just being there physically, like
Yeah.
next to her to support her, so that when she is confused
Like,
and she looks at me,
next? What do we do next?
she just sees love and support and energy her way. And I really think in people that are in a similar situation of Catherine need to surround themselves with complete love and support. And that's what we got from Royal Winnipeg. And we certainly didn't want it to end. So that's when we were like, what can we do that further challenges Catherine? Oh yeah, let's do
Amazing
Canada's
Race.
toughest, most extreme reality show competition.
How did that possibility come on your radar?
You know,
I don't.
I
You were
addressed
just
it.
you introduced it to me.
Again, I was on a path of like, okay, I see improvements with Catherine and I see her happy. I mean, her children make her the most happy, and that's a given. But also, who is Catherine? And people can relate to this at home, and they should. A lot of parents is, who are you?
Besides your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Right on.
that's where Catherine started growing. And I was like, yes, this is the Catherine. And I reminded her, this is your rewiring. You are achieving not only old Catherine, but new and improved. So then I went online and I searched it out, like all Canadians should do for these such opportunities. And I presented it.
And I was like, yep, let's do it right now.
Oh, really? Right away?
He's like, what do you think about this? I'm like, let's get the video out and record it now.
Yeah, literally like that day, she's like, okay, let's go. Let's videotape this and let's put it forward.
You both have really compelling Instagram accounts. And Catherine, I saw on yours one image that really took my breath away. And that was when you posted a scan of your brain. And it just, it was jarring and yet inspiring at the same time. How did your brain cancer actually help you both in the race, do you think?
It made me more focused because of what was happening, but also it helped me not be afraid of anything. It's really hard to make me upset. It's really hard to make me afraid because I'm still fighting brain cancer. So,
It's quite
it's
serious.
quite serious.
Mhm.
I mean, it is serious, but at the same time,
But everything else,
everything else is like nothing. Not worth nothing, but like it's really hard to make me upset. And it's really hard to make me feel upset about stuff or scared because I love jumping from high places and like
adventurous.
adventure. Yeah, I'm very adventurous. That's a good
Yeah.
word. Very adventurous.
And also, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that her having this journey, like we wanted longevity. We wanted to experience as much of this together. And our kind of goals are so different than other teams in the whole franchise. Like I would never want teams to have to be having this goal, like Catherine is on borrowed time. So we want one more episode. We want one more experience that is a check mark off of her list. And we certainly got a lot of them. And we knew that going in because she is adventurous. We were like, okay, there's going to be stuff in here that is going to be so satisfying for her and make it more comfortable to accept the diagnosis, not only just for her, but for me, because we have no phones. We have no outside world communication.
Nothing.
And with the family responsibilities that both of us have, it's near impossible to do that without the excuse of we're going on Amazing Race Canada.
Catherine, it seems like you are the embodiment of the phrase, don't sweat the small stuff, and that you both embody carpe diem. I know that the producer of the show has referred to you two as the embodiment of the competition. Why do you think that is?
Because we face every challenge as it's like the one challenge and we have fun with it and then we move on. I think that's
But the stakes are so high for us. They are and they're not, because ultimately we never pictured the win. Detachment from the win, I think, was key to our success because it allowed us to focus on each one of these challenges without the stress of the money and the truck and the world trip, which is wonderful, by the way. Like, we're very grateful for it. But we were tackling each one with trying to get to the next step and ultra focus with my ADD, as you said, a superpower, and with a desire for Catherine's story to be told. And that was contagious to the other racers and to the producers and everyone. Not that any of the producers ever stepped in, unfortunately, to help guide us, because it is a very real reality show. But it all came down to Catherine, and it's sort of like being that fly on a wall for everyone, including the viewer at home. How is primarily Catherine going to handle overcoming a laundry list of obstacles that are given to her by medical professionals? I mean, she's a medical miracle.
Well, unfortunately have a very, very great oncologist. And when I brought it up to him, he was like, yeah, I'll sign it. You can do it. You're fine. You're good. He has such a positive attitude. I feel very lucky because I know a lot of people would be like, their oncologist might say, no, it's probably best if you don't go. And he was like, yeah, go for it. Win it.
CTV is a family show. So of course their focus is on like 10% of the drama and struggle and 90% of the like good story, promote, the values, all that. I agree. I think that makes really good TV, but the behind the scenes of it is quite spectacular what we went through. And I wouldn't be surprised for producers to say that, or the crew. The W5 piece that was done on Catherine was inspired because of all the behind the scenes. Like, with Catherine and I in our hotel room, when other racers are resting and trying to, think about the next step, we were not only analyzing what Catherine, and by her request, what she can do differently and better, if you will, for the next one. But also we're talking about what she wants for her kids down the road when she's possibly not here. This is the chance, like, big subject matters that never should be talked about or done on The Amazing Race.
But it was really the only time we had because we're so busy with our families and with all that stuff. So it was really a moment for Craig and I to just really connect and really talk about big stuff.
And when we're in the car, like we're having these conversations about how, okay, Catherine's like, okay, so we're going to a memory challenge. And I said, yeah. And she goes, I have no short-term memory. I said, yeah. And she goes, okay, so how am I going to do this? And I said, I don't know, but you have 2 minutes to do it. You better meditate, rewire and all that, but you'll notice me off the side and I'm sending you really positive, good energy. And we already meditated on this and asked for the universe to align, greatness, ease, protection, support. And our techniques are now have us traveling, even with Broadview magazine, doing all these keynote speeches about how to set yourself up for proper success, align it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. You're such an inspiration, both of you. And I'd love to be that fly on the wall you talked about and take us inside some of the highlights of the race for you, but also some of the lowlights.
Well, for me, I really didn't have any lowlights.
Good for you.
He had to do a couple things that he didn't
Talk
want
about
to
yours.
do.
Yeah, what's your highlight, do you think?
I think one of my highlights was not recorded. We were in Toronto where we sort of had a lot of really great memories from, like no phones, no anything.
It was just us.
It was just us, just the two of us before we did anything sort of spectacular. And we sat in our room and we could see the whole CN Tower from where we were. We turned off the lights and held hands and just like leaned on each other and just looked at the CN Tower. And I'm like, it was such a, like, I think we were both crying, but it was such an important memory for us to have together.
And we never thought it would happen.
And we never thought it would happen.
10 years ago when she had this diagnosis, who knew, that she would beat the odds? Well, if anyone can, it would be Catherine, and I'm so grateful for it. But us to be back where we lived together 20 plus years as like these young, naive kids that just had these big dreams of Broadway and all of that. And us to know that we achieved those. We achieved our personal dreams of being parents. And we just sat there, in silence, knowing we had to wake up in 4 hours and still looking at a city that we remember holding hands, walking through the city and saying, we want to take over the world. And we just felt like we were. And I think that was one of the most special moments on the race for both of us.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really beautiful. And I can't help but think. I believe, Catherine, at the time you were diagnosed, they told you you could have 2 to 6 years, 6 years at the outside to live. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
So when I heard Craig in a clip from The Amazing Race say the key to this challenge is to not die, I thought, yeah, there's such a symmetry between what you were doing in the race and Catherine's journey, as you pointed out, Craig, at the beginning.
That's very true.
What was your scariest moment in the race? What was that moment that you thought, yeah, I could expire during this challenge?
When I was 300 feet up in the air, climbing the outside of a Ferris wheel. And you hear me say, like, do it for Catherine. Catherine inspired me, but also other racers to really get our priorities straight, right? And to just be grateful for the experience. Like I did cry, I'm not going to lie, but it was a really spectacular moment. And I certainly wouldn't have overcome it if I didn't have the responsibility to protect this one and get her through to the next round, especially with it being episode 1. I'm like, we are not leaving yet.
Yeah.
So I climbed that.
We couldn't share the great stories that we do here on the Canadian Love Map podcast without the amazing support of Charm Diamond Centers. They are Canada's largest family-owned jeweler, and they're proud to be putting love on the map. The folks at Charm Diamond Centers are thrilled to be a part of your love story. So visit charmdiamondcenters.com or one of your local stores. Love starts here. What were your relationships like with the other teams? What was the camaraderie or competition like within the group?
We strategically did want to form alliances, and this triggered a lot of the Canadian viewers. And it shocks me that that it did trigger them, because you never get through life without help from others. And it's not like we were not working with the other teams. Let me get that clear. And I know editing made that look like, but we were kind and nice to everyone.
And as Broadway dancers, we're used to dancing in on ensemble. So, we wanted to bring other teams with us and then get to the end with those people.
It's an important factor, I think, and respecting other teams and being open to working with them.
I'm curious about what it was like for you when you actually won. Like, were you confident by then that you were going to?
You weren't.
I was not. When you're in that library and everybody was there and we were working on one clue, we didn't know this, but everybody was sort of stuck on one clue. And
Which
all you
was
hear
ultimately
is
going to get the
check,
win.
check, 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 check,
Yep.
check, 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 check. So you don't know if you've won. And then once you figured out the lick thing and moved that once he sort of said lick, everybody was sort of like gathering all their stuff and leaving, even though we hadn't even gotten it checked yet. So when he moved it, I knew something was happening, and I knew that we were probably first. And then Craig was like, run as fast as you can.
Yeah. There's a lot of things from that final riddle challenge, which for people that didn't watch, the end always has a memory challenge. And this one in particular, you had to identify each riddle as a challenge, and you had to put it in order from the start of the show to the end. And for someone with ADD and then brain cancer with short-term memory loss, and that I was like, this ain't going to work. We need a penalty.
That's what he said. I think we should take a penalty. I'm like, no. So we had flown from Toronto to Vancouver that morning, like early in the morning. And I had a little book that had written everything in. So I was studying it the whole time while everybody else was sleeping. So I feel like that might have helped us a little bit. So I knew immediately where things went, and I knew exactly the order because I'd repeated it so many times. But then there was this one clue that we just couldn't get.
But at that state too, I can tell you that Catherine, there was like a wash of confusion over Catherine when we were told that's correct and move on to the pit stop. I could tell that Catherine, it was overwhelming for her. And I had to really ultra focus more than I ever have in my whole life. Because as I said, there's more instructions on how to get to the final pit stop. But what was overwhelming for both of us and almost impossible to believe is that miracles happened for us on the race. We had this lofty dream of winning, but we honestly didn't expect it. So to be in a situation where we were running towards that stadium, and at that point, I knew we were going to win. And then the moment there was one clue that wasn't aired, that this is some good BTS, by the way. It said like 120 glass doors on side gate A, door 50 and 51 are open only. And for us to run in the right direction, because we always got lost.
Yeah, I know.
The right direction. And then I grabbed one of those doors and just opened it up. And everything is almost like slow-mo, where I'm there and I'm looking at Catherine, and like even now, like you become overwhelmed. I'm like, we're winning this. And there's no way anyone is right behind us. And to just see Catherine go and then again, she looks at me and it's blank. Completely blank.
I was like, where did you have to run when we ran?
And then I'm making these decisions, and I'm making good ones, but not the best ones, because it was like an option of this gate to this gate again to enter into the stadium.
We
and
went
of course,
all the way to the
I
end.
picked the furthest one. But then we burst into the stadium, and it's just complete disbelief, I think, until we actually saw it air months later. And then we see all these other people celebrating us because it was our secret till then. It just didn't seem real.
Catherine, take me inside that moment for you.
Again, exactly what Craig said. I was sort of in shock, and running onto that stage, I don't even remember which way we went, but just getting on that stage and saying like, you won. And I was like, is this real? Is this like actually happening? Am I dreaming? I thought I was maybe dreaming. And it's like, this is real? Is it really real?
I think you let your guard down. And I think
Uh-huh.
that's where the pressure on her brain too was just so much, right? Like,
I don't, yeah, I mean, maybe.
because you thought, and your brain was trying to make sense of it. And didn't you tell me afterwards that you thought each
Yeah,
person would have an opportunity
to
like to be
win.
filmed
Yeah.
to win?
So what I had thought was
Ah.
that I had been told by somebody at some point that in the Amazing Race Canada, they don't know who won, so they'll do it with everybody. So I thought maybe that somebody else had
Like
already
each
won,
person will
and
have an
each person will have
opportunity.
the opportunity to pretend that they
Ah.
won, and they don't know if they won until it airs. So I thought maybe this isn't real. Maybe somebody else has already won.
So she keeps looking
So
at
I was like,
me and
is
my
it real?
reaction to see and confirm like it's actually us, even in the moment.
What?
Which, I mean,
Oh
again, I
my gosh.
for because there is an element that people don't see, and now that we're talking to
Mhm.
you, they're getting that insight that Catherine is doing the impossible and overcoming all these obstacles, like how her brain is actually working at times, especially under stress,
After
under
being awake for like 36 hours.
yeah,
Like,
no sleep. I
huh.
mean, it's just she's a spectacular human being for putting herself in those situations of being confused and uncomfortable.
And on the air.
That is truly amazing. It is. No wonder he said it embodies the competition because you 2 are amazing. It's also amazing to me that you were able, after all that excitement and adrenaline, to somehow keep the secret that you won. How
Mhm.
do you do that?
I kept really busy. Um, I went on to dance. I came home for a couple days with Craig, and then I flew to Sonoma, California, and did a show for 5 weeks, and then flew back to Winnipeg and did a show there.
And mom life too
And
just keeps you really
mom
busy
life,
and focused.
and also too, it's like it's fun to keep a secret, you know. And
Mhm.
and also we knew that once we were out, people would be like, know that, like, probably think, oh, you're out
Oh, because we got
because
COVID
we
on the
got COVID on
show,
the show.
and then we were temporarily removed. So
Mhm.
then that was a journey too that we took a lot of Canadians and a lot of
Yeah.
people that know us closely and or felt they know us through social
Mhm.
media were quite angry with how it was edited
Yeah.
because it was highly dismissive of, oh, these three have COVID and
Oh
they're out.
well, let's move on.
Yeah, so we were navigating a lot of communications
Mhm. And like,
with
how
that.
do we tell people like that because a lot of our friends and family didn't want to watch it because we weren't in it. And so we had to say, just
Ah.
just because we're not on the television right now does not mean we're eliminated. So keep watching.
I had to rely on fellow racers a
Mhm.
great deal after we finished filming until it started airing, and especially till the
Right.
finale. And I'm just so grateful for the close friendships we had, where it probably is very triggering for them, and
Mhm.
it takes them through an emotional journey too that they didn't win, right?
Mhm.
And to be able to have these open communications, I'm just grateful for them, and I never want any of them to lose insight of how special our friendships with them are
Mhm.
and unique. Even though we don't talk all the time now, we made really strong connections, and almost it's very spiritual, to be honest.
Mhm.
Like the path that anyone on the race, I think, feels in other seasons can probably relate when you're
Mhm.
under such high stress, like Hunger Games, if you will,
Mhm.
stress. You rely on humans like never before, and that's the takeaway. You don't have to live in that stress to be able to connect with people in these spectacular ways that we did.
Mhm.
Amazing. I love the phrase that you use, chosen family. And it reminds me that I really need to ask Craig about the LGBTQ community and their response to your race experience and your win.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I really appreciate it because our priority was for Catherine's story to be told on the race, and I'm certainly thrilled with how that was done. But in the process of that, I think that me being the only representation of the 2S LGBTQIA plus community on our season got overlooked. And
Mhm.
I would have loved them to showcase more inspiration for all of Canadians to know that we have we have spectacular families. My husband and I, we co-parent with his sister and her wife, an incredible 12-year-old, thriving 12-year-old that's going to contribute to society as a caring, loving person, and also self-identifying as ultra straight, you know? But
Ultra. That's
ultra,
interesting. Yeah.
ultra.
Mhm.
Yeah, he is.
Ah,
But I think that the feedback, I got a lot of resistance from my community because it read as me not being proud, me not talking
ah.
about it. And meanwhile, I did a great deal. And I think the race only relied on my 80s aerobics challenge to out me, which it certainly
Which
did.
it did.
My
Yeah.
performance, my
Oh my
Richard
gosh.
Simmons performance of that certainly outed me. But now that we're able to talk about it and people get to know me, because we're certainly not finished, there's so many
Mhm.
opportunities that come, and we're doing keynote speeches around the world about teamwork and the importance of friendship. And I'm a health and wellness expert, so I'm able to get out there. Now I'm hearing a lot of great support and love from my community. Thank you.
Well, I guess the important thing for you to always tell people, I'm sure, is you weren't in the edit suite. And that is so key in an experience like this with the television show that is quote unquote reality TV. You don't get all of the reality, obviously.
Right.
I want to know if you were in the edit suite looking forward to your futures, what would the story be?
Wow, what a beautiful way of
Yeah.
putting a question. I love that.
I want to live every day as though it were my last, but as though it would continue. That doesn't make sense, but
We talked about the other day, and I was
It
saying
does.
about 15 years from now, I'm going to retire here at this home.
yeah.
And what your response is?
I would love to be able to think about that.
Yeah,
I would love to be able to plan for 15 years in the future, but I can only plan for like 3 months at a time. And
yeah.
it's hard for me to accept that
But
that's happening.
when we work on something each day, it's
Mhm.
for the future, but you don't think about the future.
Right.
You just put it into motion.
Yeah.
So like every single day, there's like, we do want more opportunities. We've named Catherine's journey the Cancer Dancer.
Mhm.
And we are putting things into motion where other people through the TV medium can be inspired by Catherine, and also our friendship, our chosen friendship. More than not, people have said, I really admire that. I got to call my friend, especially through the
Mhm.
pandemic.
Yeah.
They lost touch with someone. Your chosen family is just as important as your given one.
Like everybody needs a crick in their life is
Well,
what I always say.
everyone needs a calf. I mean, the way you inspire me to even plan my future, like as you as a mother and going through your divorce and stuff, I have a goal of trying to do things that will make my 12-year-old proud of me, right? Because of
Mm.
you. So
My kids are like, "Man, whatever." And I'm like, "No, it's not whatever."
no, because they're so in the moment with
Yeah.
you, like you offer so much love and support. I do see a lot of more opportunity. I see Catherine around.
Mhm.
I see Catherine thriving in ways, again, that are medically impossible. I see medical industry coming to tackle her and be like, we need to analyze you. And her saying, yes, but no,
Not right
I
now.
gotta live. I gotta do this and that. And so we do have a list of things that
Mhm.
we plan to do together because this kind of support team is not going away.
Mhm.
Well, I can only imagine what an inspiration, Catherine, you are to the world in terms of that richness in your everyday life because of how you choose to live and to some extent how you have to live. But I think also that richness exists so much in your relationship. And you read my mind because I was thinking how inspiring it is, I'm sure, to others to see your bond and how much love exists between you. I would love to ask you a sort of predictable question from my perspective because I often ask this of couples, but in your friendship, I would love to know what it is you love most about each other, if you can boil that down.
Mm.
Mm. when I get frustrated or that when I get upset about something, it's always I'm there for you, but then he's gonna make fun of me.
You do?
No, but it's not make fun of me. Like you turn it into something that's funny.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
do something that makes me laugh.
Yeah, I never have an intent to make
No,
fun,
no,
and
no,
make fun of you.
not fun of me, but like
That came up the other day too, and I'm
no,
like,
it's not that you make fun of me.
I
It's that
never
you make
make
me
fun
laugh.
of you.
So whenever I get anxious or upset or anything, he makes me laugh. We have these silly things we've done our whole lives. Like if I was bending down, he would hold his fist above my head and I'd come up and hit it. And he's like, "Oh, sorry." And,
You hit your head.
Yeah. Oh, you hit your head, or just like something stupid like that. And it's these things that keep us close together and keep us bonded in that way. And it's, we just have little silly, tiny little jokes that
Yeah.
make me laugh until I cry. And
We've experienced detachment, like when we were going through rough times, and now we analyze it, and it does relate to Catherine's brain cancer. She had brain cancer. She was making terrible choices for herself and her life, and she was alienating herself and isolating herself. So we had like 2 years separated, and we never want that again. And we realized what we missed from that. So I think we have that friendship that everyone should have, that we can never be in a serious business meeting together.
Right.
Like
that would not be good.
All I have to do is like one move or one thing that just sets her off.
It makes me think of the expression to make light of something. And as much as you resisted that for a moment when she started talking about it, Craig, when you consider what that means, it's to make light in the darkness. And that sounds like that's what you do for her.
Yeah, and she for me too, like the constant support. I mean, I'm so grateful that again I had the family support, community support, church support, all of it for me being to LGBTQ, but people don't. And 2023, like when we go into all these schools, it is so shocking and disheartening to see the initiatives to protest our community's existence.
It's really sad.
And people don't realize that's what they're doing. And these poor kids that don't have that, they need a Catherine in their life. And like she's pulled me through difficult moments, and she's given me clarity and just that constant love and support. And I hope that anyone that this reaches, please reach out to your friends that are diverse and different, because anyone that feels different, and a lot of us do, need love. They need unconditional love and support through all of the darkness that's being tossed at them.
I couldn't agree more, but you still have to tell me what you love most about Catherine.
Oh, that's so easy for me. I love that Catherine is able to put her ego aside after all the successes she's had, and she should be flying high. With I love that you brought a cape dress. It's so fitting because she's such a superhero, and we've been wearing it to events. But for Catherine, in a daily basis, because her brain cancer does give her obstacles that people can't see, right? I know, and I can see, but to watch her still go through that struggle and then immediately try, and she knows it. You know that there's a disconnect, and you try and piece it together and do better. I'm so inspired of how she handles life every single day. And then you put it into motion.
Even today, I started talking about something wrong, and he puts his leg right against mine, and I know I should
Not
stop
something
talking.
wrong.
No, not something wrong, but change what I'm doing.
No, the way the brain works, I know that you're going off topic because what you're talking about
is not what I really
is not
want to
the
be
actual
talking
question,
about.
because you're creating more questions in your head
Yeah.
from what you've already started speaking.
I know.
So it would become a keynote speech from one thought to another, rather than an interview, which you're great at both.
Yeah. And so I know that the leg means like, oh, I should stop talking because I'm not talking about what I actually wanted to talk about.
But she puts her ego aside, and trust me for that. And to the outside world, it could look as like controlling, and
I asked him
how
to do
dare
that.
he? And that's the fine line that we had even on the race, where it was like me taking charge of aspects that I know I'm not the best. And I'm like, I shouldn't be the one that's doing this and trying to lead it.
Yes, you should. It's the trust that we have. Like I trust him to make the best decision for me, and he trusts me to make the best decision for him. So it's not like I've never want to hurt him at all, and he never wants to hurt me. So I think we just have to trust that we can just rise up together.
Well, I don't think there is any other way to describe you two more succinctly than to say you are amazing. And I just want to say a huge thanks for agreeing to be my guest today. And I can't wait to see what you do in the future. And I can't wait for our paths to cross in person.
Yeah,
I
me
trust
either.
they will. Yep.
Me too.
Yeah. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
having us. And this conversation is
it's
always so
really
much
good.
fun. Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening to the Canadian Love Map. This podcast is presented and made possible by Charm Diamond Centers. It's hosted by me, Nancy Regan, and is produced and distributed by Podstarter. We love sharing love stories of all kinds, and that could include yours. So do you or someone you know have an uplifting tale to tell? Reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram using @CanadianLoveMap or email producer@podstarter.io. We'll be back next week with another love story to add to the map.